The wedding hall shimmered with golden lights, roses draping every pillar, and the faint sound of soft music filling the air. Aisha stood at the altar in a white silk gown, her hands trembling as she clutched her bouquet of lilies. Her heart raced with excitement and nerves. This was the day she had dreamed of since she was a little girl. Yet, as the clock ticked past the hour, whispers began to rise among the guests. The groom, Armin, still hadn't arrived. Her father, Mr. Rahman, checked his watch for the 5th time, pacing near the aisle. Her mother tried to calm her, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The best man fidgeted, avoiding Aisha's gaze. The tension thickened with every passing minute until the murmurs grew louder. Cameras flashed from the corner as reporters exchanged knowing glances. The media had been invited to cover the wedding of the year, but now, they were circling like vultures sensing scandal. Aisha's lips trembled. Maybe he's stuck in traffic, she whispered to her friend beside her, but even she sounded unconvinced. Her eyes darted toward the grand doors of the hall, waiting for them to burst open, waiting for her groom's reassuring smile. But the doors stayed still. Then her phone buzzed. A single message. One sentence. Greater than, "I'm sorry. I can't do this." Her bouquet fell from her hands, petals scattering across the marble floor like pieces of her breaking heart. The hall went silent. All eyes were on her, pitying, judgmental, curious. The whispers turned cruel. He left her. On the wedding day. What shame. Mr. Rahman stormed forward, his face red with rage. "Where is that boy?" he shouted. The best man stammered. He left the city this morning, sir." "I don't know why." Aisha couldn't hear them anymore. The world blurred. The music had stopped. She felt as though the floor beneath her was crumbling. Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of them all. Just then, the grand doors swung open. The guests gasped and turned. Entering with slow, deliberate steps was Zion, Armin's elder brother, tall, composed, with a gaze that could silence a crowd. His tailored black suit contrasted the chaos in the room. Every camera turned toward him. He stopped in front of the altar, his expression unreadable as his eyes met Aisha's. His mother whispered harshly from the front row, "Zion, this is not your concern," but he ignored her. He looked around the hall, then back at Aisha, her mascara running, her heart shattered in plain sight. Something in his chest tightened. After a long silence, his voice cut through the room like thunder. "Greater than, he abandoned you." Aisha blinked through her tears, too stunned to answer. Zion took a step closer, his jaw tightening. "Greater than, then marry me. Right here, right now." The hall erupted in gasps and murmurs. Aisha's mother clutched her chest. The reporters froze, then scrambled to record. Zion's eyes stayed locked on Aisha's, steady, unwavering, as if daring the world to challenge him. In that moment, amid the chaos, humiliation, and heartbreak, a new story began, one no one saw coming. The hall burst into chaos. Guests whispered, some stood up in disbelief, while others grabbed their phones to record the shocking moment. Aisha stood frozen, unable to process what she had just heard. Zion's voice still echoed in her ears, "Then marry me. Right here, right now." It felt like a dream, or rather, a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. Her father stepped forward, his face pale. "Mr. Zion, this isn't the solution. My daughter's already humiliated enough," he began, but Zion raised a hand, his tone calm yet commanding. "Your daughter deserves respect, not pity. My brother brought disgrace to both families. I won't let her bear that alone." Aisha looked at him through her tears, her mind spinning. "Why are you doing this?" she asked softly, her voice shaking. "Because someone has to," he said simply. "And because no woman should be left standing alone at the altar." The murmurs grew louder. His mother stood up, horrified. "Zion, have you lost your mind? This isn't our problem. Armin's actions are his own," she hissed. Zion turned to her, eyes cold. "His actions carry our name, mother. And our name will not be dragged through the mud." Aisha's heart pounded. She felt trapped between humiliation and confusion. The idea of marrying Zion, the man known for his ruthless business mind, his emotionless reputation, was unthinkable. And yet, as she looked into his eyes, she saw no mockery, no pity. Only determination. "Zion, Please, she whispered, this isn't necessary. People will talk. They already are, he interrupted sharply. So let them talk about your courage instead of your heartbreak. The room fell silent again. The officiant, visibly shaken, looked from Aisha to Zion, unsure what to do. Mr. Rahman clenched his fists, torn between anger and gratitude. His daughter was already ruined in society's eyes, but this man's words carried power, enough to turn disgrace into defiance. Zion took another step forward and extended his hand. You don't owe anyone an explanation, Aisha. But if you walk away now, they'll define you by his betrayal. If you stand with me, you'll define yourself. Her eyes filled with tears again. For a moment, she saw Armin's face in her mind, his smile, his promises, all now shattered. Then she looked at Zion, standing tall and unyielding in front of hundreds of judging eyes. Maybe this was madness, but maybe it was fate. Slowly, almost hesitantly, she placed her trembling hand in his. Gasps filled the hall. The officiant's voice cracked as he asked, Are you both certain? Zion nodded once. Proceed. The ceremony continued amid stunned silence. Each vow felt surreal. Two strangers bound not by love, but by pride and pain. When Zion slid the ring onto Aisha's finger, his words were quiet but firm. Greater than, you won't cry because of my brother again. A tear escaped her eye anyway, but this time, it wasn't from heartbreak. It was from the weight of something new, something unexplainable. As they walked down the aisle together, flashbulbs exploded and whispers followed. From the corner of the hall, a figure appeared, Armin, watching in disbelief. His expression was a mixture of guilt, regret, and fury. Zion saw him but didn't slow down. He tightened his grip on Aisha's hand and walked her past him without a glance, his jaw set. The cameras captured every second. The abandoned bride now a married woman, and the story that would shake their world had just begun. The grand mansion was silent, except for the faint ticking of a clock echoing through the long marble corridor. Aisha stood at the doorway of her new room, still dressed in her wedding attire. The glittering gown that once symbolized joy now felt like a heavy reminder of everything that had gone wrong. She looked around. The walls were decorated with art, the air smelled faintly of cedar and expensive perfume, but it didn't feel like home. It felt like a cage of elegance. Zion entered behind her, his expression as unreadable as ever. He set down his phone, unbuttoned his jacket, and spoke without turning around. The staff knows about the marriage. You'll have privacy. If anyone from the media approaches you, my team will handle it. Aisha turned toward him, her voice small. You make it sound like a business deal. Zion's eyes met hers, calm but cold. That's what it is. A deal to protect both our names. The words hit her harder than she expected. She nodded silently, trying to hold herself together. He paused, noticing the way her fingers twisted around the edge of her gown. His tone softened slightly. You can redecorate this room however you like. You'll find everything you need. Dinner is at 8. Then, he left. Days turned into weeks, and their lives became a quiet routine. They shared the same house but barely spoke. At breakfast, Zion buried himself in newspapers, while Aisha silently sipped her tea. He was polite, never unkind, but distant, a man wrapped in walls built from years of control and power. Yet behind that coldness, she started to see glimpses of the man beneath the armor. When the press tried to question her past, Zion personally shut down every headline. When his family insulted her, he silenced them with a single look. And when her father fell ill, Zion arranged the best doctors without being asked. One night, Aisha overheard him in his office, arguing with his mother. His usually calm voice was sharp. I didn't marry her to save the family's image. I married her because she didn't deserve to be humiliated for my brother's cowardice. The sincerity in his voice stunned her. She stepped back, her heart pounding. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't as emotionless as he pretended to be. Over time, small moments began to soften the distance between them. When Aisha burned her hand cooking one morning, Zion immediately rushed to her side, gently wrapping it in a cold cloth. You shouldn't try to do everything alone, he murmured. She smiled faintly. I'm used to it. Not anymore, he said quietly, his gaze lingering a second too long. For the first time, Aisha saw warmth in his eyes, something human, something real. But just as their silent bond began to grow, a shadow from the past returned. One evening, as Aisha walked through the mansion garden, she froze. Standing there under the dim lights was Armin, her former fiancé. His face was pale, his eyes full of guilt. "Aisha," he whispered, stepping forward. "I made a terrible mistake. Please, give me one more chance." Before she could respond, the door behind her creaked open. Zion stood there, his expression unreadable, but the storm in his eyes said everything. Aisha's heart pounded as the two brothers stood facing each other under the dim garden lights. The tension was thick enough to choke on. Armin's eyes darted from her to Zion, guilt and desperation battling in his expression. "Aisha, I was scared," he began, his voice trembling. "Mother said she'd cut me off if I married you. I thought I could fix it later." "Later." Zion's voice was cold and sharp. "You left her humiliated in front of hundreds of people. You don't get to fix that." Armin flinched but kept his eyes on Aisha. "I love you. I never stopped. I made a mistake, but I came back to make it right." He took a step closer, reaching out for her hand. "You were meant to be mine, not his." Aisha stepped back, her mind spinning. She looked between them, two men bound by blood but divided by honor. Zion stood tall and silent, his expression unreadable. He didn't try to defend himself, didn't even look at her. For the first time, he looked tired, as if he had carried a weight for far too long. "Zion," she whispered, her voice shaking, "say something." He turned his gaze toward her, his jaw tight. "What do you want me to say?" "You're free to choose, Aisha. You always were." Her eyes filled with tears. "That's not what I'm asking." He looked away, his voice low and almost bitter. "I didn't marry you for love. You know that. I did it because I couldn't stand watching you fall apart. But I won't chain you to me out of pity." The words cut through her, but beneath his harsh tone, she heard the truth he was hiding. His pride wouldn't let him admit what his eyes already had. Armin moved closer again, his hand trembling. "Please, Aisha, you know what we had. Come back to me." She stared at him. The man who once promised her forever, who left her without a word, who now wanted forgiveness wrapped in nostalgia. Then her gaze drifted to Zion, the man who said little, but whose silence had always protected her. The man who shielded her from ridicule, who stayed when everyone else left. She took a deep breath. "Armin," she said softly, "you taught me what love isn't. Zion showed me what respect is." He froze, disbelief flooding his face. "You can't be serious." Aisha turned toward Zion, her voice firm despite the tears in her eyes. "You said you married me to save my dignity. But somewhere along the way, you saved my heart too." The words hung in the air. For the first time, Zion's composure cracked. He looked at her, truly looked, and in his eyes, she saw everything he'd never said. At that moment, Armin understood. Without another word, he turned and walked away into the night, swallowed by the shadows of his own regret. Aisha stepped closer to Zion, her hand trembling as she reached for his. "You once told me I wouldn't cry because of your brother again," she whispered. "You were right. These tears aren't for pain, they're for peace." Zion's lips curved into a faint smile, the first genuine one she'd ever seen. He gently cupped her face, his thumb brushing away her tears. "Then let's start over," he said quietly. "This time, not as a deal, but as a choice." She nodded, her smile breaking through the tears. Around them, the wind rustled through the garden, carrying away the last remnants of heartbreak. The once abandoned bride had found not just her dignity, but her destiny, in the arms of the man who turned her pain into strength, and her shattered vows into a love she never saw coming.